friends, it's Danny. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. So today I am going to be talking about how to grow your self-confidence. It's something I have personally struggled with. I'm sure everybody watching has at least once. Otherwise, probably wouldn't be watching this. But I feel like it's just a day-to-day struggle with a lot of people until, you get to that point where you are comfortable in your own skin. First and foremost, it is very, very important to remember that it is a process. It's not going to happen right away. And the reason that is important is because it's really easy for a lot of people to get discouraged if it doesn't happen like that. Like, it's just one of those things. It takes time. You have to work on it. It's really important to remember that it is going to take some time. So don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen right away. Probably the first, real step would be to begin with the phrase, fake it till you make it. I know, some people don't really agree with that, but I feel like in this case, at least for me personally, I feel like that's a good way to start. Obviously, it's not going to be a good way to, finish the process, but it's, a good little baby step to start. So, my sophomore year of high school, when I began this journey of growing my self-confidence, I lived my life by that saying. I began with no self-esteem whatsoever. I was so quiet. Nobody knew who I was. I never talked to anybody I didn't know already. It's so hard to believe because where I am now, I'm, kind of more of a, outgoing, talkative person. But when I first started all of this, I was probably the shyest person, you could ever meet. This is gonna sound, really pathetic, but no boys liked me. I never heard of a boy having a crush on me or a boy being interested in dating me or anything like that. But at the time, I had a best friend who all the boys wanted her. They all wanted her number. They all wanted to ask her out on a date. They all wanted to hang out with her, all that stuff. And for me, being her best friend, obviously I loved her to pieces, but, it got tiring being the one that, everyone would come up to me and be like, hey, aren't you so-and-so's friend? She's really hot. Could you, hook me up with her? And I'm like, no. I don't know. It seems kind of pathetic looking back because it's obviously, it doesn't matter what boys think of you or what girls think of you if you're a guy, whatever. But, at the time, when you're a young teen like that, it seems like the biggest thing in the world. Obviously it's not something you're supposed to measure your worth off of or measure it by. But, at the time, it was well, why does nobody like me? I must be ugly or I must be boring or whatever. But, that's not the case. But at the time, that was just what my brain went to. I don't know if you guys experienced the same thing or have experienced the same thing, but that's what I was going through. So I talked to my mom about it, and she was like, well, you want to know why they like your best friend, not you? It's not because you're not pretty, because you are pretty. And I'm sure plenty of boys think you're attractive, but boys are attracted to girls who are confident. And that was a big slap in the face for me. I had no idea that people liked confident people. I hadn't really noticed it. But now that my mom had brought it up, I was that makes a lot of sense because my best friend was so confident, or at least if she wasn't, she acted the part. So once I figured that out, I used that phrase, fake it till you make it. That was what I lived by. That was my new life motto, okay? I started to walk a different way because, before I was kind of like this, always, looking at the ground, always in my own little bubble, nobody look at me type of thing. But after that, I kind of began my chest and shoulders were up, better posture. I walked around as if I ruled the place, which I knew in my head I didn't, but I acted like that. And it worked actually really well. I acted the part and it genuinely worked for me because then all of a sudden a bunch of guys started taking interest in me, or at least showed that they were interested. So once you've done that, it's a lot easier to actually start to, see more of your worth, because then you realize, the opposite sex is interested in me. So maybe I'm not as worthless as I thought after all. So that's why I say that's probably the first step that I would recommend taking. I mean, it works for me. I don't know if it'd work for everybody, but that's from my own personal experience. Kind of start looking at yourself more objectively, which is very, very hard, I know, because it's so weird the way our own minds work. You know, for example, girls are very, very, very conscious about their weight, almost always. And most of the time, I know it's not always the case, but most of the time it's like, I want to be skinnier, I feel like I'm fat, I need to lose weight, blah, blah, blah. Which, for the record, you do not need to lose weight, you do not need to gain weight, you are beautiful just the way you are. Just putting that out there. It's funny because, like, you'll look in the mirror and see yourself as so fat, or, you know, way, way, way too skinny, or too muscular, or not muscular enough, you know, whatever. But someone else may look at you and think something completely different. So, like, it really is true. Like, you see yourself as so much worse than everybody else sees you, or, like, you're always gonna see yourself a different way than what everybody else sees you. So once you come to terms with that and you, like, actually, like, make yourself aware that that is a thing, the easier it becomes to begin the journey of growing your self-confidence. Now, the reason I say that is because, at least for me personally, like I said, I don't know if this is how it'd be for everybody, but once I realized that, like, other people see me as so different than I see myself, you know, it became easier to look in the mirror. And when my first instinct was to think, wow, I'm really fat, then I start to think a little bit more logically, and I'm like, well, everybody else thinks I'm, like, skinny, or that I'm really muscular, or whatever. I guess it's just a lot easier once you think and once you keep in mind that what you see is nowhere near what everybody else sees. Work with what you have and try to help yourself build up your self-esteem with what you don't. Now, what I mean by that is, you know, for example, for me personally, like I said, I kind of have a curvy, more muscular body. So I buy clothes that are meant for that body type specifically. Like, you know, it always kind of sucks because I'll see a cute top or whatever that are meant for girls with, like, smaller boobs and, like, you know, teeny tiny little itty bitty girls. You know, I'll see it and I'm like, wow, that's so cute. But it wouldn't look good on me, and that would in turn make me feel more self-conscious because it wouldn't look good. But it's like, it's not because I'm ugly or my build is bad or whatever. It's because it's built or it's made for a different body type than mine. So instead I buy, you know, like, for example, like a dress that looks good on curvy girls would be like a tight, form-fitting dress. Off the subject of body type and clothes, like, I know that I personally feel more confident when I wear makeup, and I know a lot of girls can relate to that, and I know, you know, there also is the argument, like, well, if you were really confident, you wouldn't have to wear makeup and cover up your face, blah, blah, blah. I don't wear makeup to cover up things. I wear makeup to bring out what I am confident about. So, for example, well, I like my eyes. You can't, in this lighting, they look so brown, but in real life, they're, like, kind of, like, greenish brown, so they're like a hazel color, and they kind of change colors. Sometimes they're more brown, sometimes they're more green. So, like, for example, if I want to bring out my eyes, specifically if I want to bring out the green in my eyes, I would wear, like, warmer brown shades. Or if I wanted to really bring out the warm brown tones in my eyes, I would wear, like, bronzy or gold shades in eyeshadow. That's what makes me feel better. It's because it brings attention to what I am confident about. That's what I mean. Like, bring out what you are confident about, and that's why you should wear makeup. Or, on the other hand, if you feel better not wearing any makeup, do that. Like, you know, do whatever makes you feel most comfortable. Stop caring what other people think. I know, to an extent, that that is part of human nature. To an extent, you're always gonna kind of care about what people think, and to an extent, that's healthy. You know, like, for example, If you're going into a job interview, you want to look your best and act your best so that you can get the job. Like, you kind of have to care what people think there because you want to make a good impression. But an unhealthy amount of that, like too much, is very detrimental. And while you are alive and on this earth, you are always going to be in your own body. That's what you have. That's what you've been given. So you need to start working on fixing what you think about yourself rather than focusing on what everybody else thinks. As harsh as it is, or as brutally honest as it may be, there is always going to be someone who doesn't like you, or doesn't think you're attractive, or, you know, thinks that you're just annoying or don't look good, whatever, like, you know, and there's always going to be someone prettier than you, smarter than you, like more athletic than you, stronger than you, whatever. There's always going to be someone, because that's not objective. That is such a subjective thing. Like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I know everybody says that, but it's cliche because it's true. Like, nobody would say that if it wasn't true. What I find attractive may be the complete opposite of what somebody else finds attractive. It's how human nature works. We're all, we all have different tastes. We all find different things beautiful, and that's why beauty varies from culture to culture, like beauty standards and whatever. I guarantee you, all of the things that you hate about yourself, somebody else will love. Maybe not now, but one day, eventually, you're gonna find someone that loves everything you hate about yourself. And that is an important thing to keep in mind, because, like, don't change things about yourself because somebody is going to love you for who you are. Don't change yourself to meet somebody else's standards. Like, only change if you want to. Don't change for anybody else, because they're not good enough if they don't like you for who you are anyway. You know what I mean? Learn to accept your flaws. Because another really vital thing to keep in mind is that everybody has flaws. No one is exempt from having them. So, that's important to recognize, because even the people who are mean to you, who don't like you, or who you compare yourself to, or, who you think is prettier than you, or smarter than you, or blah, 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 that person still has flaws. They have just the same amount of flaws that you do, whether it seems like it or not. They're just different than yours. And that is part of what makes this world so beautiful, is that everyone is so different. Flaws are a part of life. Flaws are a part of life. Flaws are a part of life. There's no escaping them, but now it's, I'm like, I wouldn't even want to not have my flaws, almost. I'm getting to that point now, because part of what makes me who I am are my flaws. Being too much of a perfectionist is part of what makes me Danny. What you see as a flaw, somebody else may see as something amazing, or something that makes you you, something that makes you different from everybody else. Understand that the world would not be the same without you in it. For a long time, I struggled because I felt like the outsider of my group of friends. But then James and I started talking about how, like, our group would not be the same and would not be amazing without any one of us in it. Whether you take me out, or whether you take him out, or whether you take, somebody else out, it's not going to be the same. And, that's the same with, like, the whole world. It wouldn't be the same without you in it. And I know, what are you doing? Stop. I know, there are certain times where you feel like you are such a small, insignificant piece of the world out of, the 7 to 8 billion people there are living in it. But you're not. You make a difference in people's lives, whether you see it or not. I'm sure they do. There are also some little things that you can do in your day-to-day life to help you grow your self-confidence. Even though they may not seem like they directly correlate, it may be, very indirect, you may not see it right away type of thing, but it'll still help. For example, one big thing that helps me is working out. Not because I don't, disclaimer, I don't work out because I'm trying to get skinny or I want to look better or whatever. The main reason I work out is a mental thing. Obviously when you work out, dopamine and stuff is released in your brain and that makes you feel better. Not only happier, but also it makes you feel better about yourself. So, even if you're not actually like losing weight or gaining muscle or whatever, you're still going to feel more confident about yourself. Like, that's a proven fact. Drink a lot of water. Again, that's something that will just make you feel so good. Like, you will just feel like you're glowing, which you kind of will be if you drink a lot of water. So make sure, you stay hydrated, and it's so indirect. Like, a lot of people may not even see it, but like, it helps. Eating healthy is another thing. Like, you will just feel so much better about yourself if you just eat healthy. Take the time to, choose fruit instead of a candy bar. Another small thing that is very easy to do. The only thing is getting it into a habit, remembering it at first. Every day when you're getting ready and you look in the mirror, try to think of one nice thing about yourself. Even whether it's about your appearance or your, what's in your soul. Try to think of just one positive thing every day to say about yourself. Even if it's not about your appearance, even if it's like, I'm a nice person, or I'm really proud of myself because I got all A's this semester. Whatever it is, just every day, think of one thing, just one. And like I said, the hardest part of that is remembering to do it. Earlier, I talked about focusing on what you do have rather than what you don't as far as clothing goes. I talked about that earlier. But you can also do that in physical ways too, not just about your appearance. But for example, if, I personally am not super athletic. The only sport I've ever been decent at is swimming. So it makes no sense for me to focus on something I'm not good at rather than focusing on something I am good at. So I tried track and cross country, and I was okay. I wasn't great. Whereas swimming, I saw a lot more potential for myself. So I focused on that instead. Or, if you're very book smart, but you're not so good of an artist, focus on, your grades and focus on reading books and learning and bettering your mind rather than trying to paint a picture every day. Because that's just going to, in turn, tear you down more because you're going to be like, wow, what? Instead of being like, wow, I'm so bad at painting or bad at drawing or whatever, you're going to be like, wow, I'm getting really good grades. This is really great. Or vice versa. Like, if you're really good at art and you're not so good at playing an instrument, but you've been taking piano lessons for the past year and a half, kind of take more of a look at that and be like, maybe I should take some painting classes instead of music classes, because then I'd probably feel better because I'm actually good at painting. Surround yourself with people who make you feel important and special. I cannot stress this one enough. If you're in a group of friends that is toxic or unhealthy, get out of it. I don't care how long you've been in it. I don't care how long some of those people have been your friends. Find a new group. I'm serious, one that you'll actually feel special and a part of. I know I went on and on about don't care what other people think, but humans are social creatures. Even if you are so introverted, I used to be one of the most introverted people ever, but it's still important to have friends or family or whatever that you hang out with and socialize with and talk to. So you are always going to have to be around other people, so make that human interaction matter. Make it count. Make it to where it builds up your self-esteem, not tears it down. It can play such a huge part on your self-esteem. You may not even realize it right now, but eventually it does, and it will start to tear you down, and you don't want that. My last and probably the most important tip: stop comparing yourself to other people. I cannot stress this enough. Don't do it. Get out of that trap if you're in it. That is something I have always been a victim of. I have always compared myself to other people. And to be honest, I will admit I still do that a lot. And I really shouldn't, but I do. That's the way girls and probably a lot of guys, but that's, I don't know, like I said, because I'm not a guy, but I know for a fact that is the way girls all over this country, probably all over the world, are being trained to think. And that's the way we all grew up thinking, is that, you know, I have to look like this girl, or I have to act like this girl, or I have to be like this girl. And you fall into this toxic trap, this toxic cycle of always comparing yourself. You can't compare yourself to others, because the reality of it is you're never going to reach that. You know, you're never going to be exactly like somebody else. And while that seemed like a bad thing, it's actually a really good thing. Like, you don't want to be like everybody else. It's hard for girls, especially because it's like society teaches you that unless you're built like all of these models right here, you're not worth anything. It's like they try to teach you that. You know, like all these models have such unrealistic body types because I'm pretty sure most of them don't even eat, and that is so unhealthy. And B, like, they're probably photoshopped to the max anyway. They want models that are like, you know, above 5'8" but under 100 pounds or whatever. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's so unrealistic. It's like, what? Like, you're trying to tell me that I'm not beautiful if I don't look like that. That doesn't make any sense. Like, because we're all built differently. We all have different body types and natural builds, and that's just the way it is. And like, everybody is beautiful. Everybody has flaws. Everybody has strengths. Everybody has interests. Everybody has talents that make them special and beautiful. And so, you know, I just sit back and I kind of think about it more logically, and it almost makes me laugh. I'm like, that is just ridiculous. Like, who came up with that? Who came up with, oh, in order to be beautiful, you have to be at least 5'8" and under 100 pounds? I'm sorry, what? No, that's not the reality of the situation. Don't compare yourself to models. Don't compare yourself to people that you know even. I know it is so much easier said than done, and I honestly don't have a clear-cut answer for how to stop doing that, because that's something I haven't figured out myself yet. But I guess just kind of taking some of my other tips and, you know, implementing that and realizing that you are special the way you are, and so is everybody else. And that the reality of it is you're never going to be exactly like anybody else, nor should you try to, because you are special as you are, as your own person. I think the more you start to realize that, the easier it becomes to stop comparing yourself. So, I know all of this stuff is so much easier said than done, but you have to try. Like I said, it is a process. It will take a long time. Like, I've been working on it for like 5 years now or more. And I'm still not where I want to be. My self-esteem still isn't in the spot I want it to be, and it's still not, you know, where I'd like it. It's very, very difficult for most people. But I feel like in order to be happy, in order to reach your full potential, you do need to try your best to be comfortable in your own skin. I just feel like, you know, to me personally, it's really hard to live your life ashamed of who you are, or, you know, always so self-conscious you don't even want to look at anybody. That's hard. You know, that severely is detrimental to your happiness, your mood, you know, just your overall how you're doing in life. Like, so I just wanted to make this video because, you know, I know it's something that a lot of people, males and females alike, struggle with, whether that's about your looks or your personality or both. It's just something that pretty much everyone has to go through at one point or another. So I thought maybe things that I've learned from personal experience might be able to help you guys, and if it can even help one person, that would be good enough for me. Like, I just want to, you know, help people out and not have to deal with the same stuff that I had to deal with for a very long time. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm trying to reach 50 subscribers. It would mean a lot to me. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a great day, evening, night, whatever time you're watching this. Have a great rest of it, and I will see y'all next time. Bye, friends!